We're going to begin this morning with the latest round of primary contests that determine who will be on the ballot in this fall's midterm elections. Votes are still being counted after voters in 6 states went to the polls yesterday. Up for grabs, races for governor, mayor, even control of Congress, where Democrats need to pick up 3 seats in the House and 4 in the Senate to take control. NBC's Chris Pelley has the latest.
This morning, the sprint to this fall's midterm elections is on, and the battles to control Congress and key state leadership positions across the country are taking shape.
California, thank you very much. November, here we come.
In California, where it can take days for all the votes to be counted, it appears former state attorney general Xavier Becerra, a Democrat, will finish in the top 2 in the race to succeed Governor Gavin Newsom.
I am ready to lead the fight to uphold California's promise.
His likely opponent, a former TV show host President Trump endorsed Republican Steve Hilton.
Well over 1 million Californians have put their faith in me.
In Los Angeles, Mayor Karen Bass will try to win a second term in a November runoff. Her likely opponent, former reality TV star Spencer Pratt, whose anti-establishment campaign is striking a chord with some voters.
I'm an Angelino who said enough is enough, and I had to step up.
California voters echoing concerns that candidates are hearing across the country.
I care a lot about the environment, I care about foreign policy, I care about affordability, all those things.
This fall, a key battle for control of the House is in New Jersey. Former Navy helicopter pilot Rebecca Bennett will take on Republican incumbent Tom Kean. Kean has been away from the Capitol and out of the public eye for 3 months as he deals with an unspecified medical issue.
I am proud to say that we have won this primary.
For Democrats, taking control of the Senate comes down to states like Iowa. With Republican Senator Joni Ernst retiring, state lawmaker Josh Turek hopes to flip the seat from red to blue.
We need a fighter for the people, not for the billionaires, large corporations, and political donors.
President Trump endorsed the winner of the Republican primary, Congresswoman Ashley Hinson. Chris Pelley, NBC News.
Well, for analysis on these results, let's bring in Jessica Taylor. She's the Senate and Governor's editor for the Cook Political Report with Amy Walter. Jessica, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. So let's start in California. It's going to take days there for all these votes to finally be counted, but we are starting to see some front runners in the race for governor. What do you think about the numbers we're seeing so far?
What I'm watching for is there's still another week that ballots could arrive. A lot of Democrats were holding on to their ballots. You know, the ironic thing is that initially Democrats were worried about potentially being locked out of the race because they didn't have a front runner, especially after Eric Swalwell and his scandal, and he withdrew from the race. Becerra really surged from the single digits to become the front runner. Steyer has spent $200 million of his money, and so I'm watching to see if those late breaking ballots, if that could actually push him into the top 2 along with Becerra and actually lock out Republicans and Steve Hilton. Some of these early votes are election day of that lean more Republican. So I think there's still a lot of questions with, just a little over half of the vote counted in California.
Let's talk control of Congress. So Republicans hold this narrow majority in both the House and the Senate. Iowa here, deep red Iowa. It's one state Democrats have had their eyes on to try to flip a Senate seat this November. We have State Representative Josh Turek. He secured the Democratic primary nomination to then face off against GOP Representative Ashley Hinson. What do you think of this matchup? What do you think of Democrats' odds of flipping this seat?
Well, with Turek's win, who we saw as the stronger general election candidate, we actually shifted our rating from likely Republican to lean Republican. So we see Democrats as having a better chance in this state, even though it is a state that Donald Trump carried by 13 points. It is a state that has been hit hard by tariffs, by rising diesel prices and fertilizer prices. Ashley Hinson, in a Politico story yesterday, actually said at a private meeting that she was worried about the impact of the Iran war on the election. I think that she is a strong general election candidate and she remains the favorite in this contest, but I think it's getting increasingly competitive and our rating change reflects that.
We're also watching the primary race for governor in Iowa. We have GOP Representative Randy Feenstra. He received Trump's endorsement last night, though he conceded to businessman and Make America Healthy Again supporter Zach Lane. Up until yesterday, Trump-backed candidates had really been sweeping the primaries. What do you think about this one? What's this race tell you?
This was a little bit of a surprise, but honestly, Feenstra ran a very underwhelming campaign. I think in a place like Iowa, people expect to meet the candidates, have the they're flesh pressed. And Feenstra really didn't do that. I think he sort of rested on his laurels a little bit while Zach Lane was out there more with the grassroots. He actually has more money, and so I think Elaine might be able to activate the grassroots, the conservative grassroots more. This is going to be a very competitive general election, though. We rate this race as toss-up. This is one of Democrats' top pickup opportunities in the races for governor across the country. State Auditor Rob Sand is a very strong candidate. He has more money than all of the Republican field combined. He's reaching across the aisle to Republicans and independents. He's one of Democrats' strongest challengers anywhere in the country this cycle.
Jessica, what are you looking for next in the next round of primaries?
Well, as you mentioned, sort of Trump's endorsement did not help, did not get Feenstra over the finish line. In next week's primary for governor in South Carolina, he's endorsed Lieutenant Governor Pam Avett. There's a very, very crowded field there. That might get her into the runoff, but will that secure her the nomination? How much does Trump's endorsement matter in some of these gubernatorial races is something I'll be watching as the primary season goes on.
All right, Jessica Taylor, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Well, President Trump is facing a bipartisan backlash this morning over his latest cabinet shakeup. The president appointed Bill Pulte to replace Tulsi Gabbard, who's stepping down at the end of the month as acting director of national intelligence. Pulte is seen as a controversial choice. He's a fierce Trump loyalist who is known for targeting the president's perceived political enemies as head of the Federal Housing Finance Agency. He also has no background in intelligence or national security. NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen joins us now with more on this one. John, good morning. So, just tell us about this choice. Why him? How'd this happen? And what's the reaction here?
I think the big reason why him, Savannah, is that he has shown absolute loyalty to the president, not just doing what the president says, but has been an innovator in President Trump's efforts to go after some of his political adversaries. Pulte, through the Federal Housing Finance Agency, has been pushing for, in particular, going after people over their mortgages. New York Attorney General Letitia James, former Congressman Eric Swalwell, Congressman Adam Schiff among them. And this has been a means for the president to and his Justice Department to start looking into some of those adversaries.
John, bipartisan backlash on another issue here is prompting some change in the administration. We've been talking a lot about this. So this is this anti-weaponization fund. The Justice Department says it is scrapping that nearly $1.8 billion fund after revolt from even Republicans. We have Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche facing grilling on this and other elements of the president's settlement with the IRS, which is really what kicked this all off. What did he tell lawmakers? Walk viewers through this.
Yeah, let's zoom back just a little bit, Savannah. The president sued the IRS over leaked tax documents from a long time ago. He sued the IRS for $10 billion. Then his own Justice Department made it settled with him, and the result was this: the plan for the anti-weaponization fund and essentially the funding of legal fees for people aligned with the president, and even some who are not, according to the White House, who have been targeted unreasonably by the Justice Department. What's happened, as you said, the backlash is coming from Capitol Hill. I think it's a terrible idea. Even some of the president's allies are saying that it's a slush fund. And Attorney General Todd Blanche talked to the House Appropriations Committee. Let's listen to what he had to say.
The reasons for the fund is something that President Trump talked about for a long time, which is the fact that there were a lot of people in this country who had their government weaponized against them. The reasons for the fund, I think, it remain as important as they were before, but we are not moving forward with the fund.
Not moving forward ever.
Correct.
And you hear that from the acting attorney general, that they're not moving forward ever. That's not enough to satisfy Democrats on Capitol Hill, who would like to see that codified, meaning put into law, that this weaponization fund cannot move forward, so that the attorney general and the president can't change their mind.
Certainly something that a lot of people have had their eyes on. John, one other piece of news I want to get to before we let you go. We're learning that a man who had pled guilty and apologized over, quote, these are his words, foolish actions on January 6th, is now working at the Pentagon. What do we know?
We know that that's not the only person who was involved in January 6th who is who has been hired into the federal government, into the Trump administration. These are obviously people who have been pardoned by the president, many of them pardoned by the president, and as a result, there's no legal limitation on them being hired. But this is obviously a very controversial decision, or very controversial employment.
All right, John Allen, great to see you. Thanks so much. Let's turn to some breaking news out of the Middle East, where Iran and the United States are trading new attacks in the latest flare-up to rock the Gulf region. Overnight, Kuwait's foreign ministry said one person was killed, dozens were wounded after Iran launched missile and drone attacks. While some were shot down, others hit the country's international airport. The General Civil Aviation Authority said the attack caused severe damage to its Terminal 1 building. The country's flagship carrier, Kuwait Airways, briefly suspended flights before resuming at another terminal. Well, Iran says the attack was in response to a U.S. strike on an Iranian oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz. CENTCOM said the ship was trying to break the U.S. blockade and reach Iran. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel has the latest for us from Tel Aviv. Richard?
There have been several exchanges of fire between Iran and the United States in recent days, but these seem to be the most serious. The U.S. attacked Iran. Iran responded with attacks against Bahrain and Kuwait, hitting the main airport in Kuwait, causing damage to a terminal, Terminal 1. And according to Kuwait's foreign ministry, there were casualties, including at least one person killed. The U.S. attacked a military position on an Iranian island. It seems that Iran's strategy by hitting Bahrain and Kuwait, and this is the second day in a row that Iran has fired missiles at Kuwait, is to try and break the U.S. blockade, the naval blockade, preventing ships from entering or leaving Iranian ports, with Iran attacking the American troops involved. There are troops based in both Kuwait and Bahrain and the countries that are hosting them. But U.S. Central Command says that the blockade is still in effect and has released new videos showing American forces stopping Iranian ships and turning them around.
All right, Richard, thank you so much. Well, in a shocking move overnight, CBS News has fired veteran 60 Minutes correspondent and former evening news anchor Scott Pelley. Pelley has been a pillar of the legendary news magazine for more than 2 decades. His termination comes just one day after a heated confrontation with the show's new executive producer, Nick Bilton, during a staff meeting. Well, in a scathing letter to Pelley, Bilton said in part, "You hijacked my first meeting with staff to disparage me, my qualifications, and my intentions with remarkable incivility and contempt," adding that Pelley's, quote, "antipathy to the future of the show has come through loud and clear." Pelley expressed gratitude for the colleagues he worked with at CBS News who encouraged and enriched his work. In a written statement, he accused the current leadership of instructing him to, quote, "inject falsehoods and bias into a politically sensitive story." He said he refused or ignored those instructions. Pelley has also said in part, "incompetence and unprofessionalism in the new management have wreaked havoc." CBS News has not responded to Pelley's comments, but his fellow correspondent, Cecilia Vega, made similar allegations when she was fired just last week. The network responded saying her claims were not based in reality. Well, a recent Frontier Airlines flight was the scene of a dramatic mid-air confrontation where passengers had to restrain a man after he allegedly tried to open an exit door and then enter the cockpit. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello has the details.
It happened on a Frontier flight from San Juan, Puerto Rico to Chicago. Video shows passengers restraining a 51-year-old man who the arresting officer says tried to choke an off-duty flight attendant, enter the cockpit, and tried opening an exit door while in flight. One of the passengers holding down the suspect told local reporters he's a former martial arts fighter. Video shows him pinning the suspect to his seat. Frontier Airlines tells NBC News the flight was diverted to Miami. Law enforcement boarded the aircraft in Miami and removed the passenger. Just the most recent case of a passenger becoming disruptive in flight.
They were able to finally get control of him after multiple attempts to try to breach the cockpit.
On Saturday, a passenger allegedly tried breaking into another cockpit.
Get me to the gate. I want off, or I'll take myself off. Okay.
In April, a passenger attempted to open the main aircraft door, upset that his flight was delayed by weather. So far this year, the FAA reports more than 640 unruly passenger incidents. Passengers who assault or interfere with a flight crew can face a fine of nearly $44,000 per violation, with multiple violations per incident. Actually opening an exit door in flight is virtually impossible because of the plane's cabin pressure, roughly 25,000 pounds. But a violent passenger can endanger everyone on board, passengers and crew members. Back to you.
Oh, all right, Tom, let's all behave. All right, time now for weather, where today a cold front could bring severe storms in the northern plains and upper Mississippi River Valley. We have meteorologist Rafael Miranda joining us this morning with your forecast. Raf, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. Yeah, we're looking at a 3-day severe weather threat across portions of the plains and into the Midwest. Let's start with right now, though. We're tracking a very stormy morning across the Dakotas into Nebraska. Lots of lightning here. Watch out for some flooding in some spots. Later today, we're tracking that severe weather threat. Hail is going to be one of the main threats. Large hail, 2 inches plus in diameter possibility, with damaging winds as well. Thankfully, the tornado risk is low for today. Then we move to tomorrow, and it's really the same spots. The Dakotas stuck with the severe weather threat. Hail and also those damaging winds a possibility. 1 or 2 tornadoes a possibility. Now we move to Friday, day 3 of the severe weather event. Again, watching out for hail and a few tornadoes as that severe threat shifts to the east a bit into places like Nebraska and Iowa. In terms of flash flooding today, watching out for the northern plains, but also West Texas has seen a lot of heavy rain already. Watching for some more in places like Amarillo and Lubbock down towards the Mexican border there. Let's talk about the heat. Temperatures trending above average across the northern tier of states here. Today, we're up to 84 in Hartford, feeling very much like summer there. Still cool in parts of the southeast. Now, as we take a look at the temperature trend tomorrow, staying warm in D.C. and Boston, both in the 80s. That's above average. And that heat extends back towards the Midwest as well. Records are possible as we head towards the end of the week into the weekend, even in the Northeast. New York City could see a stretch of 90-degree days as we kick off the weekend. Watching out for some heavy rain today across Florida, Savannah. So watching out for that tropical moisture there. Otherwise, a beautiful scene all the way from New England back towards the Midwest. And, of course, stormy for the middle of the country. The West Coast also looking just fine. Temperatures in the 70s along the coastline, very hot in the desert Southwest. Temperatures sizzling in the hundreds in places like Phoenix and Las Vegas.
I see 106 somewhere in Arizona.
But it's a dry heat.
All right, exactly. All right, hey, we're getting some nice weather here. Thank goodness it's June. All right, Ralph, we'll see you next hour. Thanks so much.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.